Hey everyone, welcome back AI enthusiasts. I'm your host, Mazor, Kario, product design and AI expert and the creator of Unlocking the Power of Generative AI program. And today we're diving into a crucial topic, building successful AI team. Joining us today is a seasoned AI development expert. We'll be discussing the essential skills, strategies, and culture needed to attract, develop, and retain top AI talents. Get ready for valuable insight and actionable advice. And now, my guest, Dennis. How are you, Dennis?
Hi, Adi. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm so happy that you're here, and I'm sure it's going to be really interesting. Dennis Nerush is the director of AI engineering at Elementor. And I guess that most people know what is Elementor, but I would say that is one of the tools that I usually use in my WordPress sites, and it's very, very good. So I invite you all to check it out. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and you're so invited to join the discussion and ask questions. And now we can start. Dennis, what are the biggest challenges organizations face when trying to adopt AI?
That's a great question to start our discussion with. I think I think the whole AI revolution that we're living in right now creates a lot of challenges to many organizations because if being honest, AI isn't that new, right? I mean, right, most of us when we mention AI right now, we actually talk about generative AI because it's now much easier to do so sophisticated magic that
Right.
just a year and a half ago you had to have a bunch of data scientists working for several months or even years to come up with something with crazy costs, with a lot of things that no one really understands how it works because it's like kind of like a black magic. But artificial intelligence, data science, machine learning, all those areas actually existed. What changed is that now they're much more easy to start adopting companies. And I think the challenge here is the mindset of the companies that were not AI driven before that. So a company that used to have data scientists within some AI heavy company in the back then, I think they already know how to operate. But actually, the
Right.
new companies, the ones that don't have any data science department in their company, maybe don't even have any data science engineers or machine learning engineers, any AI features in their products, and now try to do those things. This is where the challenge comes. And here there are a lot of things. First of all, knowledge, right? I mean, yeah, ChatGPT makes it very easy, which you can just write something, get an answer. But when we're
Yeah.
talking about incorporating it in a product, so not just chat, maybe calling APIs, doing some more sophisticated things like RAG and working with embeddings. These things require knowledge that usually a company without a data scientist or a machine learning engineers simply don't have it. So one, you need to focus on knowledge, on getting knowledge. And I'm not talking about having a degree, a master's degree in mathematics and physics,
Yeah.
right? But there is some basic thing of understanding what AI, how it works, how to know that it actually works. I think it's a big question that a lot of companies struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't
Some talk
understand
about
where to start. So they don't have data engineers, they don't have any scientists. So do they really need the PhD? Do they need someone who's just an analyst? Do they need someone just to see their data and understand what's going on? How do they start even?
exactly. So I guess one is actually gaining the knowledge. Second is applying it. So yes, we have OpenAI, we have Anthropic, we have many vendors that make it very easy, but still it's not that straightforward. Yes, you can connect an API and start getting answers, but then how do you control costs? How do you make sure that once you actually work with it and expose it to your users and do some sophisticated stuff, that AI actually allows you, the Gen AI allows you to do really sophisticated stuff, but it might be very costly. I mean, there are so many even crazy abilities like vision, right? You can take an image, send it to AI, and get explanations of what this image is. But
Yeah.
working with that, it might be very costly. So you need to be aware of that. You
Yeah.
need to control the costs and make sure that such initiatives actually worthwhile, right?
Yeah, did you hear about this case? I think it was a car dealer who added this chat, and people understood that it's like a really easy way to get to ChatGPT. They just use it whenever they want, and I think that it took like a few weeks, and they got a bill of $300,000, something like that. I think I heard about the story.
Yeah, it might happen because if you're not aware that, yes, this thing is not for free, especially that where in most of those companies you pay per use, so you don't actually like in ChatGPT or like a person, like a person, you put your $20 and this is you have your limit. There you put your card and you wait.
Nobody knows.
Exactly. So cost is one important thing also, and I think one of the most important things eventually is, and I like this quote. It goes like that: just because you can do AI doesn't mean you need to do AI. So
Yeah.
eventually, the purpose of adding AI to your system is to bring value, and if you're not bringing value, then why? What are you doing? And I know I see so many examples in different applications that I don't want to kind of shame any of them, but suddenly you see AI buttons everywhere, and I don't need an AI button in something where just, I don't know, just put my signature in. I don't need my AI there, but people
Yeah.
do it because it's cool, it's easy, it's there is a hype around it. But one of the
Yeah,
things that
I think that what you're thinking about, I'm just trying to imagine, is like, yeah, we want to seem to be a very up-to-date company, and we're innovating, and we're adding this chat that nobody really wants in many cases to chat.
Mhm.
And in many cases, what they offer, if they've done it well, is things that you should have gotten within the UI, and it should be just a button or a tab, and then you get it. And I think it's
Yeah,
only the beginning of just understanding what AI is, and generative AI is not just a chat. So it's just there.
exactly, you're 100% correct. And just to add on that, eventually, let's say you do have a use case, right? A use case that's suited for your company. You need eventually, when this is the case, you need to start treating AI as any other feature or any other product you have in the system. So you need to measure it. You need to understand, does it work? And I think here a lot of companies still don't are not operating in a very data driven way, even without their AI features. How the users use the product, does any of the feature do supports and gets accepted as the product manager intended? So AI is the same, but there you have a black box. There are no deterministic answers, right? Like yes, it's 100% right and 100% wrong. There are different combinations, and now how do you understand whether the user is getting the value that we need? So I think there is also a bit of a challenge where it's also technological, but also from a product perspective and a data perspective, how do you know that you're bringing the value that you want to bring to your users?
So in that case, what I'm thinking about is usually you know what you built, so it's deterministic. You know it should be this, and if not, it's a bug. And then you measure
Mhm.
if it succeeded or not, the usage, the retention, the churn, whatever. You're used to that. And here you have so many additional options and so many additional questions the users could ask or the answers. So you need to be up to date all the time and maintain this monitoring all the time in order to understand it. And there are not many easy tools. Sometimes it's even manual at the beginning, not easy tools just to manage and understand what the value they're looking for and what the value that they're getting.
Right, you're right, 100%, 100%. And it's also tricky because, in the day before AI and prompts, uh, products would usually have some sort of analytics, right? Where you record clicks and sessions and events of the user, and then some data analysis would try to kind of understand from the combination of the clicks, okay, why did the user didn't complete this form? Because they scrolled and whatever. Here it's a different case. The user usually will tell you exactly what they want. They're writing a prompt, whether it's for a chat, for an image, for some other generation ability, and they will most likely get a response. Now, what happens with this response? Is it being accepted and inserted to the platform? Is it being regenerated, rejected? What are the users doing with this type of prompt, and why does the answer doesn't satisfy them? Because there is some expectation when you describe exactly what you want and get somewhere around the ideal answer, and it's a balance between you don't always need to get to 100% accuracy, but maybe below 80 is not enough. So now, what system would you put in place to actually measure the total outcomes of the users, and then see if you need to tweak something, you need to change something, and even maybe in some cases, the Gen AI, as we know right now, maybe is not the tool for you because you're doing something very specific, and working with Gen AI, with LLM, to Open AI, is just a hack in a place where you actually need a sophisticated model.
Right. I think that what you're saying is like, I have lots of ideas. What product could I build if I was an entrepreneur for a startup? So first, monitoring what's going on and getting analytics on the data. What was asked for and what was the answer? And then the answer could be very complex. It could be an image. You could deliver an image to the model or get an image from the model, and even it could be a video. So just to understand what is the kind of data that is going back and forth. And lastly is what do they do with it? So in many cases you get like a text. Would they use it? Would they change it? They ask to rephrase it? So what is being done with the answers? And there are so many points of contact with these systems that are not answered right now. And then there are many question marks in this
Right.
work for many people. Even if they do understand what needs to be done and they're working with data, it's still there are lots of questions. Of course, if you're not used to working with data, it's like overwhelming for you.
Exactly. Exactly.
And do you feel that there was a gap for you in order to incorporate these systems into your organization, or you say, okay, we're ready and we're the best place for us to start is with AI right now?
So it's a good question because, as all good questions, it really depends, because some things were actually trivial, where we just started to run and deliver results, where others we actually had to build different supporting tools and frameworks for that. A great example is just to keep on talking about the data, because no, we didn't have a place to collect the user prompts, the results that the LLM generated, and then also to track whether this result was inserted into the editor. Basically, Elementor allows you to build websites. So we generate content and generate elements. And if the element of the content doesn't suit for the user needs, they will not insert that. So this is the areas where we want to track on some cadence to see, okay, let's look at all the, for example, image examples where user wrote a prompt, they received 4 results of different images, and they decided to regenerate. That's an interesting thing, right? Because that means that 4 images were not good enough. Then they regenerated one more time, and then they just abandoned the UI. So this is a case, a quest, how we call it, that we need to kind of now investigate what happened there. What were they looking? What did they get? And why isn't that good enough for them? So here, not only text, because now it becomes more complex. We have also images. So we actually need to see the images that they got. So we have a prompt on the one hand, a dog with a crown walking near the sea, whatever, and we see a cat. Okay, so what happened here? What can we do? And this is also a very interesting thing, because sometimes you realize that the problem is with your prompts, because maybe you can improve the system prompt in a way, and basically what we call prompt engineering, right? And by that kind of fine-tune the results. But sometimes you don't really have control. This is what the AI generates. They doesn't understand.
Right.
When you ask for a dog, you get a cat. Doesn't matter what you write. So now what? Are you changing the vendor? Are you replacing functionality? Are you doing something else? And this is exactly the type of process that we started, and we're still in the middle of it, and I create this evaluation mechanism that, exactly as you mentioned a few minutes earlier, it's manual. We're manually checking the data, manually looking at the results, and deciding what to do with that.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about all the images that people created. So you don't know if it's not a good image or it's just the taste of the person, right? Or
Exactly.
he had something in his mind in order to create it, or you cannot even imagine the amount of data that you need to calculate while seeing it and trying to understand what he meant, right? So
And the
in general,
context.
yeah, it's
The
like
context is
unknown.
crucial.
Yeah, you don't know what he really wanted to create. You can just
Yeah,
imagine, but he's not a prompt engineer. He just asks what he wants, right? And sometimes
exactly.
he forgot to say that he needs a hat, and then, oh, I
Mhm.
need a hat. Then he added a hat to the cat,
Yeah.
whatever. So it's
So
really
actually, usually from the data, it's more even more complicated than that. Because if you want a dog with a hat and you didn't write a hat, I mean, I can predict that you need a hat, right?
yeah.
But the fact that you wanted the image to be, let's say, comics, it's something else,
Oh,
because your entire site is comics, and you're
right.
writing, I need a dog, I'm an image of a dog here. So the context is very crucial, and this is also something that's a bit unique. Usually now features, if you open a page, open a tab, I don't know, start filling the form, getting a request, buying a product, the context is not as crucial. I mean, some sites have personalizations where you'll have recommendations that are specific for you at the end. I will get different recommendations, but usually the buy button will not act differently based on the site because the site is the same. So in our case, every site is different. Every user is different. Even the same user might be working on different sites. So in every prompt, we also need to take what we call the AI context to understand what additional information do we need to do to enhance the prompt that I actually don't expect the user to do that.
Right. So you're saying, like, I know the other images that he created in the website. I know what he currently has, and he wants it to match his brand and the way that the type of illustrations that he has. And therefore, I would create something that has more restrictions and more requests from the model in order to make it match.
Exactly.
So what I'm saying is, like, it gets more and more complicated as we continue to talk about it, right?
Exactly.
What are the key roles and skill sets needed for a good AI team?
It's also a great question, and I think it really depends on who is pioneering this AI track in the company. Because from what I experienced so far, I see two different personas that are leading such efforts. One, the classical AI engineer, the data scientists, that we're familiar with the old data science, and forgive the audience, but I'm calling it old. Yeah, the traditional data science. All right, it's a better word. And now they see that they can do things much easier, much faster. So they're coming up from the data science mindset, and they're actually what they need is the developers that can run fast. Because you don't need to research anymore. You don't need to do long development evaluations. Like, you can start building fast, start getting traction from users, start getting results, and exploring and basically fine tuning from that place. On the other hand, for example, from a place where like Elementor, the company started without any data science. So the people who led this effort had zero knowledge in AI and traditional AI and data science. They were engineers. So there we actually had to kind of pull in personas that are more familiar with the traditional data science, not necessarily data scientists, but people that maybe work close with data science teams, close with AI, and even experience with Gen AI, because eventually it's very, very new. Finding an experienced engineer who worked with OpenAI, there is none. It exists just for a bit over a year right now. So experience is not.
You have someone with experience. He understands the API or something like that, but you need a very specific experience in order to work with it. But it's not enough.
So my thesis is actually for specifically for my team is a new role called full stack AI.
Wow.
Yeah, because we in my team we operate as a startup within a startup, and that means that all of us, all the developers, are capable to do all the things. It's a combination of people that understand data and look for data and are actually hungry for data, that don't want just code stuff and put it out there and see. I don't know if people are using it. No, we write down in the database, we report metrics, we report analytics, and developers need to understand that. So data, and I think we talked enough about data. It's key. Another thing is infrastructure. We understand, as opposed to traditional data science teams, where sometimes we know that in edge cases, the data science code was written in some place, and then engineers will kind of rewriting it so it will fit a production service. In a more mature companies, data scientists were responsible for production services, but still usually engineers would kind of look the other way when they need to handle that code. So here, yes, we are writing a production system. So infrastructure, understanding of infrastructure, fundamentals of foundations is important, because we understand in this rapid environment where we might switch from OpenAI to Anthropic and then switch again. And all of them have different APIs. So on one hand, you need to understand how to work with multiple vendors. On the other hand, you want to do some sort of abstractions. On another hand, you don't want to over abstract. So you don't want to handicap yourself to something that if now Grok becomes available, you can't use it because their API is completely different. So it's important, because if you don't invest in those things, or at least have them into consideration, then the rapid development becomes very slow, very easy, very fast.
Yeah.
You start with OpenAI, it's nice, but then you try to do more complex things, and then the code blocks you. You don't want to be in this place. So you need to have also people that understand the best practices and infrastructure. Another thing that I think it's important, again, it's really dependent on the company structure. In my team, we are a product team, so we're responsible for the product end to end. We don't provide an API to the rest of the company, and they just work on top of that. So we need to find ways that users will be able to interact with us, and that means that we're also responsible for the front end and the UX. I think a very important aspect of enabling AI and bringing value to users is actually exposing a very simple but right UI and UX for users. I think the genius thing in ChatGPT, that again, LLM models exist, right? Before ChatGPT 3.5, is they cracked the UX. They made it simple. GitHub Copilot,
Right.
completing the next code, I think this is not, it's incredible. But what's more incredible is how easy it is to integrate it in your development. You just write, it auto-completes you. If it's good, fantastic. If it's not, it doesn't bother you. Think about all the different recommendation tools that usually pop up and come up with different popovers and dialogues, and you're distracted from your work, from your context. Copilot is the genius of UX without any front-end code, right? It's
Yeah.
very, 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 very sophisticated. The same with ChatGPT. Why so many users are able to use such a very high-end technological thing? It's simple. Creating simple UX is hard. So one, you need people that are part of the team that are designers and product managers that care about those things, understand users, understand design, and are able to simplify actions. And obviously also need the developers that need to implement this thing.
Yeah. I'm very surprised that you're like a separate, because when in the experience, overall experience, it doesn't look like a separate tool. It looks like integrated, another feature integrated into Elementor. But I guess
Exactly.
that maybe because it's very new, it's like, and I could just imagine that if it will be very successful, you could just separate it and give this capability to other vendors. You don't have to stay within Elementor, as I understand it.
Yeah, I mean, this is more of a business decisions, right? This is a
Right.
business folks decide who gets what. But eventually, our main product is the Elementor editor with a web builder. So we're building a product within this product. Right?
Right.
And by the way, it kind of connects to my earlier point of infrastructure and design and best practices of code. Because if you don't think about those things, suddenly the business folks that might want to take it out elsewhere will get an answer that everyone hates. Oh, this is impossible. It will take us a year. No, it's very coupled, spaghetti, whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're
it's
right.
important to also think about those things.
Yeah, of course. So what you're saying about the old-fashioned traditional AI team is that it comes from a data scientist, someone who has a PhD in data, right? And he understands the data in very high level, and he knows how to build even these kinds of models, right? And
Right.
since we're using a third-party service, doesn't matter if it's OpenAI or Anthropic, whatever, or Gemini from Google, they're all answers that are pre-built models, and you're just using it, or you're training it, or you're talking to it like in prompt engineering, just getting what you want from a predefined set of parameters within the model. And in that case, you don't need all the high-level understanding of the statistics and mathematics that you as a developer could fill in the gap, understanding from data science what you need in analysis, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it's. I'm more looking at it as like as a balance, right? Where on the one side you have the research teams of data scientists that takes months to release something, and on the other hand you have developers that just write simple features, change buttons, whatever.
Right.
So LLM created this transition where both ends need to kind of come closer, because just working with AI, and we talked about it in the beginning, just giving this OpenAI API to a developer that doesn't understand cost, doesn't understand analysis, doesn't understand how to evaluate whether the results are good or not, will get to a $300,000 bill and might be getting the wrong product, and they don't even understand what it is. Because
Right.
eventually you do need to incorporate the traditional metrics, like a recall or precision. You do want, because you're creating some sort of recommendation system, and you need to understand that it works, right? LLM always
Right.
provide an answer. So how do you know if it's good? So you do need the traditional understanding, but you just don't need to invest 3, 4, 5 months in deep researches and writing papers to get value to users. Because eventually, I think this is what it is about. We want to bring value to our users. And Gen AI in its current form makes it much easier to bring value to users. So how can we, on the one hand, move much faster? And this is where the developers come in to the data science realm and make it faster. But on the other hand, we don't just put things out there and don't know if they work or don't work and if they're accurate. And when we know that they're not, what are we doing? Because we are fine-tuning methods, there are additional things that data scientists understand, while developers might not be familiar with it at all.
And do you have some kind of data analysis or data science within the company?
Yeah, so we actually data analysis we have in the company for quite some time, because again, as many other companies, regardless of AI, we want to understand our users. We have BI, we have data pipelines, we have analysis to understand how users are working. So this is very helpful. And we also, right now in Elementor, we also have data scientists that are also working with us and additional teams to kind of get more insights from the data what we have, even regardless of the actual AI abilities.
I see. How companies can attract top AI talents in today's competitive market?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question, and I think it's not necessarily related to AI, but I will answer it like from both ends. There's a great book. It's called Drive by Daniel Pink, where he mentioned like that we used to have, because he talks about drive and motivation. All right, because eventually, how you make people come work and be retained in the company and bring value and want to even more from themselves, we need to be motivated. We need to have a drive. So in the earlier days, we were talking about the carrot and the stick, right? Okay, you're not doing your job, you're fired. You're doing your job, you get some bonus. But we see that as time goes by, it's not enough to attract top talent, to retain top talent, to make it in this competitive environment where a lot of people can pay a lot of money. How do you make sure that you actually the one that get the talent? And I think here what he talks about is basically I think he calls it motivation 2.0, where he divides the motivation to three parts: craftsmanship, autonomy, and purpose. Basically, you need three elements so that a person will have a drive to go and kind of conquer that mountain and feel that your mission is the mission they want to be part of. So craftsmanship talks about, becoming better, you're learning new abilities. If it's AI, if it's new products, if it's technology, if you're solving complicated challenge, that we as engineers, we love challenge, right? We don't want to go to a place where we know exactly how everything is working. So this is one. The second is autonomy, where you're not being told exactly what to do. You come into a place and they say, okay, you're working with OpenAI, you can do only this type of codes, and everything you want to do, you need to sign off from the executive. Like those are the type of environments where the company might feel safer, but top talent will be very hard to operate within it. And the last part is purpose. This, why are we here? What are we trying to do? Oh, we're just adding here AI so it can summarize your comments. I don't know if it's that exciting, as opposed to making people more efficient, healing something, making something better, improving something, or enabling something that wasn't been done before. The purpose is very important. As I said before, this drive, this combination, I think it's relevant to any role, but it's obviously relevant here in the AI phase right now, because the purpose needs to be real. Because we're not doing AI just for the sake of AI. We're actually doing something that maybe our product couldn't have done before, and now AI is unlocking that. Yes, autonomy. We need to create environments where people can run. We're looking for people who are hungry, who have ideas, who can innovate. So we got to let them do that. And we need to explain that, yes, you're coming here not to be told exactly what to do, but actually to have the ability to innovate by yourself and come up with your ideas.
Right.
And obviously solving complicated challenges. So I
Yeah.
think if a company can explain those traits, those opportunities to the candidates. They can attract top talent, and they can most likely retain top talent as a result of that.
Yeah, I agree, especially with what you're saying about autonomy. If somebody is very, as I see it, very talented, he needs his freedom to express all his skills. And if you're taking someone who's very talented and saying, okay, you're doing something very small, very specific, and I'll tell you exactly what to do, it means that they don't have any capability really expressing themselves, and they would go to another place in many cases. And you could see that with people who are more entrepreneurial in the way that they think. You would get more out of them because they want to create more and more, but you need to give them the ability. You cannot just cut their wings and then expect things to happen. So it's really important. And I know that especially when you're talking about um, more technical roles, it seems
Mm-hmm.
like it could be very, very specific and even boring. And it could be much more than that. And it could give you an ability to express yourself. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very important, especially for people who are eager to create. You know,
Right. Right.
it's important. What are some common challenges faced when building and managing an AI team, and how can they overcome it?
I think that there are a lot of challenges everywhere, right? I mean, obviously with AI there are additional layers, but I think that one we talked about it briefly. Great people are hard to find. Awesome people, the top talent is even harder. So, and especially now you see so many different roles, AI and evangelist, AI whatever. So it's hard. So people, if you need to hire top talent for an AI team, yes, you need to work in it. It's not something you can just leave it to your free time. You need to go through LinkedIn. You need to go check podcasts, check meetup, check people, check writing, and come up after the people that are might be the talent that you're looking for. Another thing, I think that in many of those companies, because the technology became easy, it's important to be able to move fast, because a lot of things is connecting to an OpenAI or Anthropic or Google. It's not that hard. So if you want to make sure that you're leading, so you need to have the first mover advantage, to be the first in the market, to ride on the hype. But as we know, the first mover advantage also comes with the first mover disadvantage, right?
Right.
The second, it's much easier to copycat. And this is where it's very important to understand the moats. But your entire product is not only about calling an OpenAI and getting a result. If this is your product, anyone else will be able to do the same. Maybe with a better
Right.
UX, maybe faster, maybe a bit different, but there's no competitive edge here. So it's important to also understand what are the modes, what are the big problems that will be big problems to anyone solving them, and focus on them. Also get the fast things, the low-hanging fruits, obviously, but you also want to understand how do you distinguish yourself. So I think in this area, it's a balance of understanding, if we're already developing AI, why are we doing that? What is the value we want to bring? And how do we make sure that we're not only focusing on chatbots, but actually do something more complex, more meaningful, and creating this mode. And having said, by the way, as all things, there is a balance of working fast and creating small features, small wins, and working hard on those areas. And also, since we're talking about in some areas consumer-facing products, it's also important to kind of balance the UX, because we talked about how UX is important. But sometimes, especially when we're talking about companies where the team that is responsible for AI is not necessarily the full stacks, the developers, but more of the machine learning and the data science, and maybe they have some additional help from some teams. We need to balance how to create a more simple UI, so that we won't invest a lot of time in building the CSS and the HTML, but actually creating value, showing to users, getting direction, getting feedback, and then seeing if we can invest more. Because in some
Yeah.
areas, specifically now, where calling an API is not that hard, sometimes you might find yourself working more on the UI and creating the sophisticated layout, other than actually delivering the value.
Right. So first, I'm very happy that you said that because I come from product and design, and I always think like people think about AI, they think about technology, they think about the bundle, they think about the answers. They don't really think about the value that they bring in many cases. And people say, yeah, we need AI, and they don't know why they need four. And one of the reasons that I created this program is because I think that the leaders and the executives need to understand what it could be and what is a valid use case and what is not a good use case and how do you see it in the future. It's like right now it could be a chat, but you want to integrate and to get the knowledge within your company in order to build something. It could be a data mode, meaning you could use and utilize the data in order to build something that is unique for your company and your users, and other competitors might not have. And what would be the next stage? And when you're thinking from a product point of view, that gives you the added value because the technology, as you said, it's really easy to create the APIs. And even more than that, you could ask ChatGPT to create the code for the API, and then he gives you the option just to connect to it. So to understand the business model and the business objectives is much more important than understanding the technology. So I totally agree with you. But do you think that an AI team is very different than understanding any engineering team or coding teams? Is it different, or it's more or less the same point of view, just a different technology?
Um, it's a tricky question because my initial hunch would say it's the same team. You have roadmap. You should have goals. And again, I'm talking specifically about teams that are not developing some sort of a platform or creating research, but actually developing features and value to users. So any other thing, they should have a roadmap. They should have values. They should have goals. Sorry, they should have numbers and understand if they're in the way. But I think the difference here is again the technology and the data, because also in traditional teams you have data and you need to work on that. Here it's much more because everything is about not only the UX that you're creating for your client where we need to tick some boxes. You usually will let them talk. You usually will let them write down something. How is it good enough? So is it good enough from their perspective, from the instructions that you're providing them? Let's go back to the example of the image. Do I tell them, hey, please make sure to also add the style if it's comics or whatever, or just leave an empty text box and basically let them go wild and then get frustrated because they're not getting the results that they want? So this is
Right.
one area. Another area is that this world is changing so fast. So if a traditional developer also should be aware of technologies and the next version of React introduces something, here you can have groundbreaking abilities unlocked because a new model just released and it's half of the price, half of the speed, and it creates something that was not done before. So all of us seen the Sora promotions, right? And I think everyone is eager to get their hands dirty on this technology when it be available, and obviously, hopefully, this will be fast and not it will take
Yeah.
ages to generate the videos. But let's say this is something you need to be aware of because we talked about competitors, we talked about moving fast. So you need to make sure that you're being aware of that, and then you need to make sure that you're able to try and switch because we know some companies are doing A/B tests and it's considered best practices, but in reality, most companies don't. Here, we want to be able to actually do an A/B test and sometimes maybe an ABC test across several models and see which of them provides the best result. And then basically create this type of architecture where we have multiple AI abilities that are powered by different AI vendors, different AI models, and maybe sometimes even several models competing with each other to create the best result. And the last thing that I think that, again, in the last several years, the cost theme became much more noticeable and more people are discussing that. We have new roles like FinOps, where we start to track cloud costs and operational costs and stuff like that. Here, it's very, very important to be aware of the costs because we know that they might spike, that they might get out of control, and then it might affect the pricing of our entire business model. So being aware of the costs is something that's also a bit unique to those AI teams as opposed to traditional development teams.
Yeah, I think that as I understand it, most developers need to be up to date all the time. They need to know what's new. They need to know what is up and coming. But in that case, it's being flexible in order to not to just learn, but to change even everything that you have just
Hmm.
because there is a new model, or just because you want to change the way that you're doing things. And it's very uncomfortable and unknown in that aspect, for sure.
Exactly.
So, do you think that when you're looking for these people, do you need to ask for how do they handle change and flexibility?
100%. This is exactly the type of questions that I'm asking in my interviews. Exactly. I'm looking for people that I want to be part of a dynamic environment where things are not constant, where things might change, where we might take a certain decision, even though some people are not completely agreeing with that, and we'll let the data decide. Because we developers are and people in general are very opinionated, right? We have different, and especially good people, and we talked about top talent, but we are very opinionated. But yeah, in those cases specifically, we need to make sure that we're hearing everyone out. What are the ideas? What are the alternatives? What is it? What people think we shouldn't, but then act on that. So kind of incorporate the value of disagree and commit, and ensure that yeah, we're doing that, and we can also back up our results by data. So from one of the examples that I shared earlier, we had in one of our features we wanted to see if one model can improve it. So obviously, right, idea was just let's change the model, wait and see if it's better, but maybe it will be worse. It's not the
Who
best
knows?
way to kind of do that, right? So this is
Right.
exactly where we incorporate the A/B test of a portion of their users got behind the hood two and even three different models, and we compared acceptance rate, results, pricing, speed, and after several weeks, when we got a decent amount of volume, we looked at the results and actually were surprised. And this is, I think, the best type of experiments where you don't know because you're not the user. You don't know how the system actually behave in different cases. The models are very different. So some companies say, yes, we have the fastest model, and actually it's not. Why? Hundreds of different reasons, but bottom line, it's not the fastest. So if speed is what you care about, you can't just listen and say, hey, yeah, it's on our blog. They say they're the fastest. You need to
Yeah.
actually track those things and see in reality, in your product, in your location, for your use cases, what's best. And eventually, again, choose the things that bring the most value.
Yeah. I'm just imagining the betting between you and the team. And you're saying, I'm betting for this one, he's betting for this one, and the one who
Yeah.
wins, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
It's interesting what you're saying because these systems are really new and they don't have all the infrastructures and platforms that would relate to them and give you additional information about pricing, about how fast they are, about the data that's going on, analysis of what's going on back and forth within the systems. So you need to build some kind of system yourself. So it's like building from scratch systems in order to validate and make sure and maintain and monitor everything that you're doing with the systems. And if you don't have that, you're just blind and you can just imagine what they're doing. And that
Exactly.
and more than that, it could be very dangerous for a brand. For example, these systems could create whatever they want, and sometimes it's not what you want them to create for
Yep.
your clients, and that's
Exactly.
important. And we didn't
Exactly.
discuss security yet. I'm surprised that
Hmm.
the word did not come up at the beginning, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I think it's also important to kind of understand what security means because security, like insurance, it's a very easy kind of a word to kind of put in and say, yeah, of course, security. So obviously,
Yeah,
security is important, and but it's also important to remember different use cases because when you're working with OpenAI and security, I don't mean only by cyber, right? Also like maybe malicious or uh, damaging, hurtful content. So when you're working with the existing OpenAI Anthropic models, so you have a lot of guards in place already. So you won't get how to create a bomb or whatever. even though we see there are some hacks. So,
Yeah.
but so working with a self-built LLM or something hosted and open source, it's a different case. And I think this is where exactly people also need to understand. And this is also where you come up with part of understanding the knowledge around working with AI and this technology, because it's important. You need to understand the downsides and what can go wrong. When you're working with vendors, it's a bit easier, but also something that you need to kind of check as part of your due diligence in the beginning. If it's even should incorporate it in the first. But again, here there are a lot of things that go back to data. When you see what people are doing for what use cases, you can kind of learn and see if there are any attempts or anything that is unhealthy or even damaging in potential. Specifically in our cases, we don't see such things. I mean, users don't
That's
put
surprising.
their credit card in the chat so that they can generate the content about, like, it's not specifically the use cases. But again, this is where every company is different, and they need to understand what can go wrong, and then maybe utilize existing companies, existing tools. There are a lot of things out there right now, as always with security. We're gonna ensure that you don't work, your users are not doing things that they shouldn't. And also for companies, because people are now working with ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot and other tools as part of their day-to-day, even regardless of the product they're working on. So this is also something very important to track, and also very different tools for that, and different part of that, I guess, the security teams within the company.
Yeah, if you ask me, like, if I would have let's say that I'm a VC and I need to predict, I would say that I would bet my money on AI security companies. I think they will have so much work. So that's my bet, but I'm not a VC and I don't have the funds for it.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a safe realm to be part of, right? Security in general, cloud security, LLM security, mobile security, because eventually people might do malicious things, and we need to protect them, right? So obviously, this is a new area where they can get hurt in some way, and we need to ensure it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and you could use and utilize these tools in order to create new types of attacks, right? I don't know if you saw it, but yesterday I saw a company that creates an AI agent that would be your sales, that will do cold calls and will talk to potential clients. And I could just and you call, and they had this billboard saying you're still hiring humans, and then it was a number, and you could talk to this agent. I think it's called Blunt or something like that. I'm not mistaken. And I would, the first thing that came to my mind is just utilize the same technology in order to get people's details, to get their credit cards, to get their numbers, their bank account, whatever. It's so easy to send these agents to your direction, and the power that somebody could have utilizing these tools in order to do it is overwhelming.
You're right.
So maybe like your next startup could be that in that direction. Just think about it.
Yeah.
And how can companies support the continuous learning and development in their AI team members?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one thing we need to understand that AI allows you to create a lot of things, and some of them are very trivial, right? I mean, right here, right now, you have something that can summarize something for you. It's not, but if you want to create some advantative edge using AI, then it should be strategic. It shouldn't be something, you have a small team lying around here, 2 developers, they can do stuff that might be useful or not useful. If a company needs and wants to take AI as an integral part of their product, then I guess we need to think about it as a strategic initiative. We should aim for quick results in the beginning, but understanding that creating a good product, and we talked about moats, creating something, solving a difficult problem with AI, kind of reminds us the traditional AI that takes months, that creates maybe fine tuning, maybe even building their own small model that will work in combination of existing LLMs. Those things will take time. Yes, they can move very fast using OpenAI and others, but anyone can do that. And at some point, you get to a limit where it just doesn't get the result you want for your specific use case. Yes, it does allow you to create rapid development and bring something to market very fast, get the intent of the users, get feedback that they want this, but it's not good enough right now. This is great because now you got the feedback, the signal that you should invest in it, and then investment means it might take more time. So I think there's something that we're hearing. So many AI companies pop up, so many companies add new AI features, but creating a game changer differentiators takes time, and companies should kind of think about the combination of both. Don't just expect that in 1 month you have so many AI features that bring you so much money, and you can already change the .io to .ai in the
Yeah,
name of your
that's it.
company. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that one more thing that is very important in that aspect is that you see this as a tool that would grow, you would grow, and you will have this information, this knowledge within your company. It's like the trial and error of I'm starting something which is very easy and it's like low hanging fruit just to create an API and start with it. But you have this information, the data, and the knowledge in your team, and it's very
Mm-hmm.
hard to have that. Like a year from now, you would know so much, you and your team would know so much that the value that you could bring to the company would be much bigger. And
Exactly.
they're growing their AI capabilities and their data moat and the knowledge within the team in order to have a better value for the product afterwards.
Exactly.
Like they're investing in you and your team and growing.
Mm-hmm.
I know that most developers, in general, engineers are people who know how to learn themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They love to know new things, and they're always learning new things. It could be like a new library, or it could be a new language. It doesn't matter. They are growing all the time. It seems to me that part of the product UX leadership, finance, marketing, they know how to use specific tools to use AI, but they don't understand the domain in high level, and they're missing out on some of the opportunities, I would say, that could lead to. And sometimes you have a very top down, a very easy top down process, let's saying like the engineers understand it and then they could take it up. But sometimes it doesn't work, and the people who are managing everything needs to work hand in hand in order to get the essence of what could be done, right? Do you see that in your company?
So I think it's important to kind of have this type of champions, I would say, uh, for AI. It can be within the team, it can be someone else. But as you mentioned, I mean, AI is complicated, and maybe some people, more people now know how to use ChatGPT, but they don't know how to create things for their product that is powered by AI, but it's not necessarily a chatbot, right? So
Right,
here, I think
right.
this is a very important role of that champion. That can be part of the management. It can be a senior leader. It can be whoever who understands that. That is their constant work would be to kind of share ideas, share abilities, not specifically saying, "Hey, let's do this or this," but actually help them understand what is possible. And it can be roundtables, it can be a newsletter, it can be weekly meetings, it can be whatever. But I think it's very important to create also the knowledge, create this knowledge bridge to leadership and to business folks so they understand what can be done, but also enabling the team. We talked about autonomy in the beginning, enabling the team, the people that are actually having their hands on the AI products, being able to come up with their own initiatives, being connected to the context, connected to the business, connected to the goals, regardless of AI, right? This is a product. This is what we're doing. This is what we're aiming for. These are our users. This is what they struggle with. Now talk. And those people that actually live and breathe the AI and the abilities can actually come up with ideas that no one would actually think of. And again, and I know I said it several times, I don't think it's only in AI. I think AI just kind of puts a spot on that and makes it more as a challenge to companies because it's completely different technology. But this top down, bottom up enablement is relevant to any company because eventually the developers working on the code know the places that are horrible and can be touched. versus the places that, hey, actually it's a simple trick that we can do and enable something. So I think it's an advice that I would actually share with all the companies to make sure provide context, lead with context, regardless again AI or not AI, and hear the people and allow them create platforms so that they can talk and come up with ideas and ideate different ideas for product, and then kind of have this connection. Oh, this is actually a great idea. Let's do it.
Yeah, sounds really like makes sense. So we're almost done. I'll have like with last questions now. Your number one tip for leaders today.
I love this question. I'm also listening to the podcast, so I know how people usually answer it. I'll take a different angle because many people ask me this. And my advice to leaders is actually, and I think it might be surprising, but work hard. I mean, work.
Yeah, that's surprising. Okay.
Yeah, it's surprising. It's different because I think there are a lot of people talking about feedback and communication. Everything is correct. I think my number one tip is make it your life mission. Become the best leader you can. So all those traits, all those qualities, all those abilities that everyone is hearing about, work hard. Work hard with the rest of the people. Read more books, listen to more podcasts, talk more to your people, give more feedback than others, be more hands-on than you can. Try doing those things, try raising the bar for yourself. And by this, not only you will get better, you'll impact the entire company.
I'm happy that you say that. Like most people say, the work of leaders is so hard and they're always occupied. But the fact is, they could be better. So
Yeah,
it's a good
yeah.
advice. Yeah,
We should,
everybody could be better. It's not like if you're in a specific position, no, you're in the top. That's it. You're perfect. So
exactly, exactly. We should aim higher. We should always aim higher. And by the way, sometimes working harder doesn't necessarily mean taking more hours of doing more. It's also obviously a result of prioritization and deciding what's important. You can work very hard but not talk to your people. So what did you do with that? You can decide that you're hands-on leader, a hands-on developer, team leader, sorry, but you're working on some small tiny bugs that bring no impact and don't help you understand how your team operates. So why bother? It's also very obviously important to understand what's important and what's not important. And on
right.
the important things, this is where I say this is where you need to work harder. And sometimes on doing that, you'll actually work less hours because you'll empower more of your people. You create more context, better feedback, better communication channels, solve problems that actually require being solved now rather than later. And by yourself also invest in yourself, because this investment then multiplies the people you're working with.
Yeah, thank you for that, Dennis. It was really interesting. Where could people hear more about your work and contact you?
So I guess nothing special here. You can follow me on LinkedIn and also talk to me on LinkedIn. I have Twitter, where also I share the things I read and some of my thoughts, and I also have my blog that I guess we can maybe
Mm,
share later in the podcast, where
sure.
I also write about my technical ideas or managerial and philosophies. But usually LinkedIn is the best place to start.
Oh, thanks, Dennis. It's been a pleasure. Dennis Nerush is, I want to say that I was very surprised with all the things you said, especially with the last part about working harder. So thank you for that. And thanks for coming, and it was very insightful. Thanks,
Thank
Dennis.
you, Adi. It was a pleasure being here. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. And to all of you change makers out there, thank you for joining us. I invite you to sign up to my new online executive program Unlocking the Power of a Generative AI, designed for leaders with the skills to build successful generative AI products. And I'll see you next week with another innovative, insightful talk. See ya.